Hey everyone, it's Alex here, and in this video I'm going to be sharing with you 7 things we can do in times of fear and uncertainty to protect ourselves. Now, even though I don't have as much time today to work on this video as I often do other times, this is still going to be one of my most important videos to date, and I really want to share from the heart here and provide you with the most value I can in a short amount of time. So stick with me here. And you may even want to take some notes, because throughout this video, I'm going to be dropping some of the most foundational things that have helped me so that maybe they can help you. The first thing we can do in times of fear and uncertainty to protect ourselves is to cultivate compassion and recognize our shared being and recognize our shared oneness. Maybe it sounds woo-woo and hippie and new age to some of you, but this is potentially one of the biggest hidden gifts in times of fear and uncertainty, because it's not always easy for many of us to be the most conscious and compassionate people. And yes, in times of fear and uncertainty, it can lead certain people to become more greedy and more selfish as they panic, and we've seen that. But these times can also act as a catalyst to realizing we're all in this together, that we're all on spaceship Earth together, whether we like it or not. And perhaps it was our lack of compassion and our disconnection from each other that got us quite far into this mess in the first place. Our unconscious, rampant exploitation of the environment and our unconscious, rampant exploitation of other sentient beings that feel, breathe, and have a beating heart like us. You see, many people who follow my channel might see me as an unmovable rock because you mostly only see me when I'm at my best, but maybe you don't know my past. You might not know that for years I suffered from extreme anger and anxiety and debilitating panic attacks. And I've been through some inner transformations that have liberated me. But of course, I'm human. And with all the recent events compounding as the global situation becomes more and more uncertain, of course, I feel it too. But this time it's different. This time, I recognize I'm the space that contains the emotions, not the emotions themselves. More able to observe them without being completely lost in them. And through this, I recognize what we share, and so can you. You see, if you're feeling fear and anxiety right now, just know, and you can say this to yourself if you like, whilst thinking of other people, and as I say it, it's from me to you. Your fear is my fear. Your anxiety is my anxiety. Your uncertainty is my uncertainty, and your being is my being. And together, we can cultivate compassion and kindness and connectedness that will help us to heal. The second thing we can do in times of fear and uncertainty to protect ourselves is fear journaling. Yes, there's incredible power in positive thinking, and there's incredible power in focusing on the good things so that we can pour our energy into them and grow positivity. But it's also useful to have times where we get as many of our fears out as we can, so they're not lurking around in our subconscious causing havoc. This applies to any situation where you're consciously creating things like a big project or a business, but it applies to global crises. And it only has to take 5 minutes. You can spend 5 minutes writing down your current fears in a notepad. Or what I prefer, a 5-minute voice note on your phone, talking all your fears into that phone and purging the emotional heaviness out of as many of them as possible so you can feel lighter and proceed with greater clarity. The third thing we can do in times of fear and uncertainty to protect ourselves is cultivating inner acceptance and inner surrender to the situation. Now, this does not mean we have to have any degree of external acceptance to the situation. we can have a World War II style mass mobilization of people and resources to remedy a situation if necessary, and in some situations it may well be necessary, like now. But inner acceptance and surrender to the situation helps us to drop the inner resistance to the situation, which helps us to keep calm so we can approach situations with rationality and grounded intelligence. And of course, I recognize it can be challenging, and I recognize for many of us it's not going to come all at once. Often, as we start to drop inner resistance to a situation and begin to surrender, emotions can start to feel worse before they feel better, because we're bringing consciousness to our emotions instead of pushing them down by being constantly lost in the stories in our mind. But the more inner acceptance and inner surrender we can bring to the situation, the more we can move through those emotions so we can get back to a place of groundedness and act with greater consciousness to produce a better outcome. The fourth thing we can do in times of fear and uncertainty so that we can protect ourselves is to prioritize our health. Many of us take our attention away from our health and work on other things, or let it fall to the wayside, forgetting how much of a priority it really should be. But times of fear and uncertainty can show us why we do need to prioritize our health, because if it's seriously compromised, we're more vulnerable, especially in times of uncertainty. Of course, we can recognize that we'll never be perfect. Most of us are never going to eat exactly right and get exactly the right amount and the right type of exercise and give ourselves exactly the right amount of self-care. But it's about pivoting towards the habits that give us greater health. Now, I know there's a lot of controversy and debate around this, and let's not get into debate about it right now. But my view, based on years of consideration and research and personal experience, is pivoting as much as possible towards whole food, plant-based, low oil, low salt. That means fruits, vegetables, seeds, legumes, whole grains, sea vegetables, a B12 tablet, lots of water, and a good amount of exercise, particularly high-intensity interval workouts and practices like yoga. I'm not a nutritionist or a fitness expert, I'm a coach, and I'm not here to advise you or tell you what to do. I feel a responsibility to tell you what I believe based on my research and what's helped me, so we can use times of fear and uncertainty to remember to prioritize our health, because it's the foundation of everything we do. The fifth thing we can do in times of fear and uncertainty to protect ourselves is to recognize in times of fear and uncertainty there will be hardship, but also opportunity. Many of the top companies in the world were started in a recession or in other times of crisis. Many people who invested in times of fear and uncertainty, either financially, in themselves, or in the wider community, ended up winning big in the bounce back. Of course, not everyone has the chance to invest in every opportunity, and not everything that appears it might be an opportunity ends up paying off. But in a changing world, people's priorities change, and as their priorities change, money flows in changing directions, and it's intelligent to become aware of these things. To become aware that in a rapidly changing world, people's priorities change, and we're more likely to have success if we pivot our services and our contribution towards the changing needs of others. And there's also an opportunity for the conscious and the compassionate leaders of the world to step up, because the world is telling us unthinking, out of control, rampant consumerism is over. That extreme political polarization and the fragmentation of our societies isn't serving any of us. That unconsciously marching forward with any endeavor that isn't sustainable, doesn't serve the wider world, and only serves to satisfy short-term gains is driving us at 150 miles an hour into a brick wall. People's priorities are changing and they're looking for conscious leadership. So the new leaders of the world that are about to rise to the surface, this is your time to shine. This is your time to come out of the woodwork and work with everyone to lead us to a compelling future. The sixth thing we can do in times of fear and uncertainty is looking after our mental health, making sure we're practicing self-care. In times of fear and uncertainty, the fear and hysteria can often do as much damage, if not more damage, than the situation itself. In times of fear and uncertainty, perhaps it's time to take stock of when you last meditated and practice loving kindness meditation. When you last wrote in a gratitude diary, recognize gratitude for someone else and recognize gratitude for who you are as a person, with all your shortcomings and all the obstacles you've overcome and all the ways in which you've grown. It's time to remind ourselves to take a few conscious breaths, not big, deep breaths that many people think is going to help in times of stress, but that actually generates more stress, but long, gradual, slow inhalations and exhalations in and out through the nose, slowing the breathing right down, letting the diaphragm slowly, gently rise and fall, or to practice other breathing techniques that may help, like various pranayama or the Wim Hof method. It's time to notice the stillness within, noticing that underneath any chaos in the mind or the external world, there's a sense of stillness that underlies it all. There's a space that contains everything, an awareness, and to let our attention sink into that awareness and make our home there so we can find ever increasing levels of inner peace. The seventh thing we can do in times of fear and uncertainty to protect ourselves is to reflect on what we're actually doing as a species and which direction we're choosing to go in, because there are no coincidences in this world, and quite often we don't arrive at times of fear and uncertainty out of nowhere. Of course, I know that at the moment many people are only able to deal with what they have in front of them right now, because for many it's crisis time. So I'm not going to go into massive detail about it now, but once all is said and done, perhaps it's time for us to think about how we collectively contributed to a situation, to think about how we treat this planet and the sentient beings on it, and to think about our behavior and our daily habits that we might not usually give any consideration to open our eyes to the injustices in this world, and whilst recognizing none of us will ever be perfect, to at least to be honest about our shortcomings so we can actually have a chance to improve them. And I recognize that there's a huge spectrum of opinions and viewpoints on what's created our current situation. Some people think it's a conspiracy. Some people think the situation was engineered by the elites. Some people think it's just individuals' behavior. Some people think it's the system, and some people think it's the people in power. And for the sake of argument, let's assume anyone could be right. Whatever the case may be, and however we got ourselves into times of fear and uncertainty, none of us are actors in isolation. Every single one of us has some kind of influence on some level, and there are times that come to consider how to positively use that influence. I recognize we may need system change, and I'm not here to claim that I know or to tell you what the best system is. I feel a responsibility here to uplift and inspire, but my belief is that however we change things, it has to be on the foundation of a global spiritual and psychological transformation. A consciousness revolution where every single one of us has a part to play. And maybe, just maybe, out of all the hardship, this will be the catalyst for this to happen, so that our children and their children will be able to stand on our shoulders as we stand on the shoulders of those who came and went before us. And my hope is that we can all come together to feed into that, so we can transcend times of fear and uncertainty to create a sustainable and compelling future using human technology and an evolution of consciousness to manifest a sustainable Earth for all species, instigate a global awakening of human consciousness, and become a spacefaring multiplanetary civilization. So I wish you all the best. I wish good outcomes for everyone. May all beings be free of fear, anxiety, and disease. Let's care for each other to the best of our abilities now and always. I'm Alex. This channel is about conscious personal growth and deepening our awareness so we can create more of what we want in our lives and have a positive impact on the world. So if you liked this video, give it a like, and of course, don't forget to hit all when you hit the notifications bell so you don't miss out on any new videos helping you with conscious personal growth. Peace.